Welcome to second and third period news. My name is Torleif Grubenstropper Papperheimer, and I'm here with Dr. von Puppenheimer and Dr. Potato. We are here to talk about the debt crises in developing countries with Dr. von Puppenheimer specializing in South Africa and Dr. Potato specializing in Haiti. Now, about South Africa currently has debt problems due to after the apartheid falling. They've had debt problems because the banks have been selling loans to a lot of people without considering if they could pay the loans back. So unsecured loans, personal loans, and credit card debt and overdrafts have grown substantially recently in South Africa, nearly tripled in the past 4 years to 44 billion or 10.5% of total credit, according to the South African National Bank, or Central Bank. Economic growth has slowed, and with low interest rates, South Africa's biggest banks have ramped up unsecured lending because the rates they can charge, up to 31%, are far higher than those for mortgages and car loans. Consumers want to live better, and since many are poor, they take many loans which they cannot pay back. This has also had a very negative influence on businesses. They're nearing a credit bubble.
Fucking consequence. Still mine.
Okay. Now, to Dr. von Puppenheimer. What can you tell us about the consequences of this debt crisis?
Cut.
What can you tell us about the consequences of this debt crisis in South Africa?
Well, the debt problem in South Africa is more private.
How so?
Well, it's not the state that borrows money. It's the private sector.
It's the private sector. So the average consumers are the ones responsible for this issue.
Exactly, they are, because they are borrowing money for own beneficial use and for developing their own businesses. However, they do not work. That's 63% of all small businesses fail in the first 2 years.
That is enormous. That's not very good for competitiveness or anything.
That is not good for the competitiveness.
So the impact is really it's really crippling the industry, isn't it?
It is. Although when they borrow that much money, they also increase spending, private spending.
That's true, because more capital is available to the consumer.
Exactly. So they invested in industry, so that the industry in South Africa is increasing. That is why they've recently become one of the BRICS country, because the industry is developing so much. However, industry only accounts for almost 20% of the labor force, whereas 60% of the labor force accounts for 60% of the labor force in South Africa is with small businesses,
and which are failing because
they are failing. Over half are failing.
And how does this affect the average person in South Africa? What kind of debt?
The problem is so big that the debt accounts for 75% of the average consumer disposable income.
That is enormous.
It is.
That doesn't leave much space for other consuming of goods, really.
No, not really. The increased spending has also resulted in GDP growth, increasing percentage of growth, and the GDP per capita is also increasing.
Okay. So what has been done to fix this issue?
The South African government has issued an act called the National Credit Act, which was to encourage responsible borrowing. It also limits the interest rates and service charges.
Mm-hmm. And
it also discourages reckless lending. But it has, however, failed, unfortunately.
Oh, that's a shame. Now, what else? Has any other industries blossomed out of as a consequence of all this?
The debt problem has indeed been a huge problem in South Africa, and that is why advisors have been employed to advise the people on.
So the average consumer and the small businesses
exactly
employ these advisors to manage their money.
Debt counseling has become a huge industry.
Okay. And they could potentially help solve this debt crisis?
Nobody knows, but a lot of people, South Africans, 6,000 South Africans seek this every month.
every month. That is quite an important number. Now, what could be done in the future other than that to solve this debt crisis?
Well, of course, debt cancelling is one. More debt cancelling.
Yeah.
The government could also play a role in this.
Even after the failed attempt?
Even after the failed attempt, with more legislation and balancing the budget, which has social consequences such as cutting on welfare, for example, or higher taxes and other.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Dr. von Puppenhauser. I will now go to Dr. Potato, and ask him about Haiti. Now, Haiti is another developing country that is in quite a huge debt crisis at the moment. In 1825, 20 years following the Haitian Declaration of Independence from France, France demanded compensation for Haiti to be recognized as a sovereign republic for the loss of workforce and resources that France lost as a consequence of this. Now, they had to repay the modern equivalent of $21 billion. From the very start of their existence, they were indebted. From 1957 to 1986, Haiti was ruled by a corrupt family, the Duvalier family. Their loans incurred from the time alone are estimated to account for 40% of Haiti's debt in the year 2000. Now, this debt until then has had a huge impact on the development of Haiti, as it had a lack of capital to invest in domestic development. Haiti was actually given debt relief from the HIPC, the heavily indebted poor countries relief program, in 2006. Even though it was actually launched in 1996, and Haiti should have been one of the prime candidates, this 10-year gap definitely had some kind of an impact on Haiti, as their debt was cleared much later. But in 2006, $1.2 billion of debt was wiped off, but developmental damage had been done. After all this, Haiti had no more debt to pay to the World Bank. Instead, they still owed $0.2 billion to the North or the developed world. In 2006, the government was paying around $50 million in debt repayments and interests. And prior to the earthquake in 2010, which even more damaged their infrastructure, they had a debt of $1.15 billion, which means that their debt has actually increased in this 4-year period. Following the disaster, $1.35 billion was the new total amount of debt. Now, this was due to a lot of the relief money being given in the form of funds, or loans rather, instead of as grants, because Haiti had to repay them in the future. One quarter of this foreign debt was cancelled in January 2010 by President Hugo Chavez of Venezuela, as $295 million was owed to Venezuela at the time. Now we are going to go to Dr. Potato and ask him about the consequences and possible solutions to this enormous debt crisis. Now, Dr. Potato, what can you tell us about the Haitian debt crisis? Like, what consequences has it had on Haiti?
Well, unlike South Africa, the debt crisis is more public than private. They have never had a capital to improve their infrastructure because they had to pay back their debt for a very long time. Thus, they lack the lack of development right now. However, However, there is one positive consequence. The USA, for example, have boosted the export in 2006 as they have set a duty-free access from Haiti, from their export to the US. But however, because of the high debt of the country, the US are able to sell their products on much lower prices. And this has slowed down the development of Haiti, as foreign workers or any other producers have taken a lot of their income.
So essentially, you're saying that the U.S., due to Haiti being in debt to it, they have been able to sell subsidized goods on the Haitian market at much lower prices, and therefore leaving lots of domestic workers out.
That's it. They just don't give the opportunity to Haiti to develop their economy and their.
So they continue in a vicious cycle because of this.
They do.
Okay. Now, are there any possible solutions to this problem?
There have been made some possible solutions. For example, to cancel their debt of 1.2 billion US dollars, so that 50 million US dollars remain per year for Haiti to improve their infrastructure, their healthcare and education.
Because the HIPC, which wiped off those 1.2
That's
billion.
it.
Yes. But in the future, now that the debt is up to over 1.35 billion, what could be done in the future to help that number go slower? Because now, unlike the debt from before, this is not to the IMF. This is to or the World Bank. This is to the this debt is to the north or the more industrialized countries.
Well, what I would prefer is to cancel all the debt and all the loans.
So kind of like what Venezuelan President Hugo Chavez did.
That's it, and to give the so-called loans in shape of grants instead of the money, because money just makes the debt of Haiti much bigger and does not really help them to improve and to recover from the earthquake or from their bad financial situation.
Yeah, the debt is really crippling the Haitian economy.
Yeah,
and
however, IMF helped Haiti to gain their biggest economic growth in 2006 since 1999, as they have provided them with much capital.
So this truly shows that the debt is actually the reason for Haiti's slow economic growth.
That's it, yeah, the money.
Thank you very much for coming, Dr. van Poopenhauser and Dr. Potato. It's been a pleasure to have you here, and I look forward to our next interview. And now on to Asian reporter Trisha Takanawa to talk about dyslexic penguins.